Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Representative Mesha Mainor from District 56. Today we're going to be talking about the legislation that I dropped today, which is on aggravated stalking. I have several experts with me today. One is Dr. Melanie Bliss. She is a psychologist. We also have Ms. Melissa Arthur, who is with Partnership Against Domestic Violence, and Mr. Greg Leflin, who is with Men Against Violence. You've seen in the news the stories about my current stalking case. I am not here to talk about that case, but I am here to bring awareness to stalking. I thank my colleagues for standing with me, behind me. I appreciate you. This is a crime that goes underreported. I want to start with Dr. Bliss so she can give the social emotional component of stalking crimes from the victim's perspective, as well as the mental health component of it from the stalker's perspective. Dr. Bliss.
Thank you, Representative Mainor. My name is Dr. Melanie Bliss. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and co-owner of Thrive Center for Psychological Health in Decatur. I'm a psychotherapist and consultant specializing in psychological trauma and violence against women. Georgia legislators, thank you for allowing me to come speak to you about the important topic of stalking. The social and emotional impact on victims of stalking is significant. Unlike most crimes that tend to be one-time occurrences, stalkers start slowly, often discreetly, and keep going. They tend to ramp up their behavior over time. At first, the victim may minimize the risk to their own safety. A victim may perceive she or he has control over the stalker and appeal to them with reason or empathy, asking them to stop. Victims may even doubt themselves, sometimes letting the behavior continue as they blame themselves or feel guilt or shame. The stalker becomes more invasive and may become threatening, aggressive, or violent. They may cyberstalk their victim, posting things online, pretending to be the victim, and harassing them with a barrage of texts, emails, or social media posts. They may show up at their place of work, worship, socialization, or home. People who have been stalked feel higher levels of depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, panic, and other psychological conditions. They have trouble sleeping, eating, focusing, and enjoying life. The stress can affect their physical health and immune system. They have a hard time trusting others, feeling safe, and knowing what to believe, and may limit their activities, not leave home, constantly look over their shoulder. They're terrified the stalker will act in a way that ruins their reputation or physically hurts them, their pets, their loved ones, their children. Victims may make major changes to their life in an effort to get away from the stalker by leaving their neighborhood, school, even job, or city. Even with a restraining order or other criminal protection, and even years after the stalking has stopped, victims remain alert and afraid of how the stalker might reach them. Victims fear for their safety, yet their pleas for help are often met with disbelief and invalidation. Many victims feel unsupported and left to cope on their own. Their friends, family members, law enforcement officers, attorneys, even their therapists may try to convince them that the stalking is not that big of a deal, and their requests for help may be ignored. They are often told they have to endure it, and in many cases, they are not criminally investigated or their cases are put on hold or dismissed. For these reasons and many more, I support Representative Mainor's efforts at increasing legislation regarding investigative practices and judicial proceedings for the crime of aggravated stalking, and I support increased training and awareness about stalking for law enforcement and first responders. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Dr. Bliss. Listening to her say what she had to say, it really brings it back home to me. As a victim of stalking, you try to forget what's happening to you, and it's difficult.
Hello, my name is Melissa Arthur. I am the VP of Prevention and Outreach with Partnership Against Domestic Violence. We have been providing support, compassion, and empowerment to over 20,000 survivors a year since we began in 1975. 20,000 people we service a year. That's why today is a very important day. We have people who are struggling with being able to receive help in the state of Georgia. Statistics show us that 1 in 4 women are victims of intimate partner violence. It shows us that 1 in 7 men are victims of intimate partner violence. We do know that women are disproportionately affected by domestic violence, but we also know that men are underreported. This is why my organization, Partnership Against Domestic Violence, has made it our mission to end intimate partner violence. We understand that stalking is an issue in the state of Georgia, that we know that many people who are stalked end up fatalities. We understand that intimate partner violence has many stalking behaviors that are associated before it becomes physical or sexual violence. What my organization does to support those who are going through any form of domestic violence or is a survivor of it, we provide 2 emergency shelters. We have one in Fulton County and we also have one in Gwinnett. We have community support groups, which it allows victims as well as survivors to come together and talk about their experiences and learn from each other and support each other. We have supportive housing. We understand some of the barriers that our survivors face when choosing to leave their abusers, and we would like to make sure that we eliminate these barriers. We also have a legal advocacy program which helps our victims of domestic violence and survivors file for protective orders in the counties of Fulton and Gwinnett. And lastly, we do have a teen dating violence prevention program because we are understanding and seeing the increased violence of teen dating violence that's going on in Georgia. 1 in 3 teens will either be affected or know someone who is by teen dating violence. We need to protect our youth. Lastly, if anyone is experiencing domestic violence and needs someone to talk to, we have a 24-hour crisis line that's available at 404-873-1766. Thank you.
You may be wondering why I wanted to partner with Partnership Against Domestic Violence. In certain counties, they include domestic violence and stalking in one category of family violence. So in Fulton County, if you need help, you are going to get help within a collaborative group, which is stalking as well as domestic violence. During my journey, when I went to get my emergency protective order before COVID, they have 4 court dates a day. At each one of those court dates, they may see up to 100 to 200 cases at each court hearing. That is a tremendous amount of people that are asking for help on an emergency basis. Some of the cases that I saw that disturbed me, which is why I'm doing this legislation. One lady could not even come to get her stalking order because her stalker caught up with her and she was in the hospital. Her sister had to come and say, Your Honor, we still want the order, but she's in the hospital. I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Greg Laughlin.
Thank you, Representative Mainor. My name is Greg Laughlin. I'm with Men Stopping Violence. We're a 40-year-old organization that's mission is to engage men and communities to take action to end violence against women. And we have a simple message for men that are out there who may be stalking or abusing or controlling or strangling partners. And our message is, let her go. Let her go. There's a better way, that this is a choice that men make, and that there are resources out there and communities of men like Men Stopping Violence, that if you're choosing to use those behaviors and stalk somebody else, that's a choice, and you can unlearn that. Men Stopping Violence is here. Give us a call. We would like to work with you because, again, the message, I think, is let her go. And we stand in solidarity with Representative Mainor and all women and men who are being stalked or strangled or abused. Thank you.
The last remarks that I'd just like to make, I wanted Greg Laughlin to be here in particular because oftentimes when people think about stalking, they only think about women, but men are stalked as well. And it can also be men on men stalking, women on women stalking. It can be old, it can be young. As Dr. Bliss or Melissa said, it can be a teenager. Stalking is underreported. You can get help at your local DA's office. In Fulton County, they have a witness advocate program. I'll be doing some town halls in the near future with the Fulton County DA's office on the resources that they provide. Are there any questions? Yes. So, without getting into too much detail, because it is an ongoing case, I have been stalked for 2 years by the same person. This person has stalked me, joined my church, followed me when I come out of a store, out of any event, parked at my house, blocking my driveway, in my driveway. The list goes on. And in court, I often say, because I've had to research, what's going on to get help for myself. So in court, I often tell the judges, this is a textbook case. As Dr. Bliss mentioned, I am doing this legislation because there are loopholes in the system. Some of the loopholes that I noticed that this legislation will fix. One, if you call 911, oftentimes in my case, the police will not do a police report. I have to tell them what the law is, that it's my right to have a police report done. On another occasion, it is my right under Marcy's law for me to be notified of every single court date. I was not being notified. So my new legislation puts in a clause where now the judge has to get certification from the prosecuting attorney that the victim was actually notified. Another thing that's already in the law right now, police officers are supposed to send these domestic violence stalking cases to the GBI. That is not being done. This new legislation creates a pathway, so it is done. There's an enforcement piece to it. So once the GBI starts collecting that data at the end of the year, once a year in January, now the Georgia General Assembly, my colleagues behind me, we will start to get data that we've never had before. so we can really create new legislation to be more impactful. Any other questions?
Yeah, and I can ask this afterward. I just want to get the spelling of all those people's names.
Let's come.
Dr. Melanie, M-E-L-A-N as in Nancy, I-E, B as in boy, L-I, S as in Sam, S as in Sam.
Melissa, M-E-L-I-S-S-A, Arthur, A-R-T-H-U-R.
Greg Lachlan, L-O-U-G-H-L-I-N.
And I'm actually going to ask yes. So today it was a first reader. Yes. And, you know, a lot of people do not think stalking is important, so I actually would like each one of my colleagues to come up and at least just introduce themselves to you, because this is something that they feel like is important.
Hello, I'm Representative Becky Evans, and I'm proud to stand with Representative Mainor on this legislation. I have a neighbor who was a leader of what's your organization's name? Men Stopping Violence. He passed away like 15 years ago, but I talked to him about the importance of his work, and so I'm proud to
newly elected together, and we've been talking about this legislation even before we were sworn in, and I'm very proud to stand with her when she told me her story. It was heartbreaking, and so I was happy to be one of the top signers of the bill with her.
Good afternoon. Representative Roger Taylor, representing House Republican, and just here to support the colleague. We all came in together, and this is a very serious issue that I 100% support in any way that we can.
Greetings, Representative Mesha A. Thomas from the 65th District. I am supporting Representative Mainor on her efforts. I too was in a stalking case in my 20s, and I know what it feels like, and I'm just proud that we have someone that's standing up for the people and pushing something forward that we need assistance with.
My name is Chuma Lopez, representative from District 86, also a newly elected representative, standing proudly with Representative Mainor on this very important issue.
Good afternoon. I am Representative Marvin Lim, also newly elected, proudly standing and signing Representative Mesha Mainor's bill. Just briefly, I want to highlight how important this is to communities like mine, which are extremely diverse, large immigrant communities. People have come to me saying that this is a problem there for many different reasons, and this creates protections, creates a standard that is so much better than we already have. And that is very important to communities like mine, so that's why I'm standing with Representative.